The rarest Magic the Gathering Heroes of the Realm card has finally appeared, and I have to say, it's pretty impressive.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, today we are here for the pure joy of looking at brand new Magic cards. So I hope the day finds you well, and if it doesn't, I hope this picks up your mood a little, because getting to look at new Magic cards, at least for me, is a really exciting experience. And we're going to be looking today at the rarest of the rare from the Heroes of the Realms card. And these cards are very rare to begin with. They're actually specifically created for people working on Wizards of the Coast projects. So, without any further ado, let me show you the rarest Hero of the Realms card. It is the Cinematic Phoenix! So, if you don't know the idea behind these cards, as I said, they're specifically created for different groups that are working for Wizards of the Coast on different projects, which makes these cards very, very scarce. And this card in particular was made from what I understand, the smallest group of people that have had a card particularly made for them, which makes this the rarest because there are the fewest copies of this card in existence. So, let's break down what it is. The Cinematic Phoenix is 1 black, 1 red, and 3 for a 4/4 legendary Phoenix creature. We're already off to a pretty good start. The abilities obviously are where it starts to get crazy. So it's got flying, haste, and protection from red. Now that's interesting. I mean, when it comes to Phoenixes, it having flying makes perfect sense. The idea of a Phoenix without flying is really absurd. What game was it that did that? Was it Force of Will? I'm pretty sure Force of Will had something that looked exactly like a Phoenix. It had wings, and it couldn't fly. That kind of stuff drives me crazy. When you look at a card and go, okay, I can see it flying. Why doesn't it have flying? But anyways, Phoenixes have flying make perfect sense. It having haste, a lot of Phoenixes have haste. I guess they're not groggy from coming back. Do you know what I mean? Like, Phoenixes, the idea behind a Phoenix is that it is essentially a form of immortality, right? There's different versions of the concept where some Phoenixes, they almost always self-immolate, right? So they set themselves alight and burn away. And in some cases, they just create a brand new exact replica of themselves. So if this Phoenix here was that type, basically when it burned away, it would show up looking identical. In some cases, it's shown as a new fully grown Phoenix, but with differentiated features. So you can tell that okay, you know what, there are some changes here. This is a new entity. Sometimes it's shown as a smaller version of the original Phoenix. And in some cases, it's actually shown as an egg, right? It's basically like the Phoenix immolates into an egg, and then the egg hatches into a new Phoenix. But it does make you wonder, how does the new Phoenix egg hatch if there's nobody to like sit on it and incubate it, right? But whatever. I mean, we're dealing with magical creatures, so that's just a little bit of a wonderment that I had about it. Anyhow, you have this Phoenix having protection from red, and that makes perfect sense for a Phoenix, right? I mean, if you're a being made of living fire or connected in some way to the elemental fire nature, then it's going to be difficult for fire magic to affect you. But in this case, it's actually also lightning magic that doesn't affect this Phoenix, right? Because it's all red magic can't affect it. So it's not just fire magic. The lightning aspect of it is somewhat covered by lightning being in the artwork. So you could see this Phoenix as being comprised of, fire and lightning magic. Or if you want, just pure red mana essence, however you want to view it. It is interesting that the Phoenix can't be stopped by anything that's red, which would mean dragons can't get in its way, barbarians couldn't contest it. Does it just have such an impressive presence that it causes this effect? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is it that leads it to fully have protection from red? That's another interesting thing to chew on from a flavor perspective. So already, 5 mana for a 4/4 flying haste pro red guy is pretty solid. But it gets way crazier from here. So the next ability is one that's definitely going to make Commander players go, dude, I mean, regular Magic players too, but Commander players, I feel like this is a card that screams play me in Commander, right? So the ability is 1 mana and tap. return target legendary creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this Phoenix has powers that go so far beyond the realm of death that they can literally use their Phoenix ability on other beings. But the beings have to be sufficiently legendary. Now, I take that to mean that one of two different things. It can mean that the power that the Phoenix uses to resurrect people is so intense that only the most hardy and legendary of individuals are going to be able to physically withstand the process of being drawn back from death into the world of life. Or it's a scenario where the powers can only be used on the worthy, the chosen people, the very special, the legendary few, right? Either way, that's a really cool concept, and it takes the level of the Phoenix's power way, way up. Because normally Phoenixes can only keep themselves going forever. But with this Phoenix, like, if you had this Phoenix as your pet or whatever, and you're a legendary person, and obviously you would be to have this Phoenix as a pet, you could essentially live forever, because the Phoenix is going to be able to keep bringing himself back, because that's how Phoenixes work, and he's going to be able to keep bringing you back from the grave, which is amazing. And it goes a step further, where it goes tap 6 untapped creatures you control, return the cinematic Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. If you tapped 6 legendary creatures this way, you win the game. So, obviously we have the Phoenix's ability to be brought back from the grave. In this case, it's obviously done through the joint efforts of a number of different people. So any 6 individuals are sufficient to bring the Phoenix back. However, if it's 6 legendary creatures, then the Phoenix comes back in this blaze of glory that completely wipes your opponent out, which feels awesome. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel cheesy, because this auto win is really difficult to set up. You have to use 6 different legendary creatures to be able to make this happen. So, for me, it doesn't feel unbalanced in power in that regard, but it definitely feels powerful. The flavor is really cool on a number of levels. So as I said, these cards are designed for particular groups. Now, this card was designed for the cinematic subset of Wizards of the Coast. The people who I guess are working on maybe coordinating the Netflix show and the movies. I'm not sure exactly what the Oh wait, never mind. I do know what the cinematic department. I'm having a hard time with the name here. I do know what they're responsible for. I heard it and completely forgot. They're responsible for creating the trailers. All right, so basically, they were responsible for creating the War of the Spark and Throne of Eldraine trailers. And if you saw those trailers, they were pretty good. You know, like, there was a lot of effort put into them. For me, especially, the Throne of Eldraine one with the little gingerbread people and Garruk coming in and the ginger man getting wiped out and the ginger lady, I will avenge you. Like, dude, it's a mini movie. They did an amazing job with the Throne of Eldraine trailer. So they're the ones who were responsible for creating those. And so as a result, they get the cinematic Phoenix. And I like the fact that the flavor of the card actually feels like something that would happen in a movie. Like, you could see a scenario where you'd have regular everyday folk bringing this Phoenix back earlier in the movie, and then the Phoenix gets wiped out. But later on, these massive legendary heroes who have been accumulating together and forming this great kind of alliance throughout the course of the movie, they all come together and use their powers to bring the Phoenix back. And the Phoenix comes back roaring with insane power and wipes out all the enemies. That's like the climax of the movie, where the enemies end up just losing because this Phoenix is imbued with legendary power and it flies out and just burns everything to ash. Like, dude, that totally has a movie feel to it. And the artwork is awesome. You've got the Phoenix there just with its crazy wings blasting up, the head reared back in like triumph, like it's just been rebirthed. And interestingly enough, around it, you will see that there are 6 different things placed. You have a cauldron, you have a crown, a bident, a pile that's closest to us that I can't 100% make out, another pile that's definitely bones and skulls and stuff, which gives you an idea of the size of this phoenix. I mean, look at the other object behind it. That's like a wagon wheel. So there are 6 things being used to represent the rebirth, which I like. I like when the number of objects in artwork corresponds with the number of the mechanical ability. So to me, this is like 6 non-legendary creatures bringing the Phoenix back, although you could theoretically also view this as these being 6 items tied to legendary creatures. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could have that kind of a scenario where the Biden could be something like Thassa's Biden, and the crown could be like some Lich Lord's crown or some legendary barbarian king's crown, and the cauldron could belong to some legendary witch. Like, you can use them as either common everyday items for a regular resurrection of the Phoenix or legendary items. I really, really dig the vibe of this card overall. So, this isn't the only card I have to show you today, my friends. The next one we're going to talk about isn't as rare, but it is definitely super cool. So, that is the Fabled Path of 0 Point. All right, this is a really weird feeling card, and honestly, it kind of feels massively old school and retro. So, the Fabled Path of 0 Point is a legendary land mountain, doesn't come into play tapped. Pay 1 mana of every color, so white, blue, black, red, and green, and tap it. Creatures you control gain land walk until end of turn. Now, if you're not an old grandpappy Magic player like me, you may not know what land walk is, because land walk used to be a big thing in Magic the Gathering. Like, it was a evergreen ability that we would see frequently, but at some point, I don't know when, they got rid of it. Maybe it was around the time when they came up with the idea of making unblockable into a thing, because Landwalk is in some ways very narrow. Landwalk works like this. Whatever land type we're talking about, you have that type of Landwalk. So if it's mountains, you have Mountain Walk. All right, there's Mountain Walk, Island Walk, Forest Walk, Swamp Walk, and Plains Walk. And Plains Walk is the funniest one, simply because that's also what you call going to another plane of existence, planeswalking. And so there are multiple creatures in Magic, only 2 or 3, that have planeswalking, but they walk across plains lands. They can't traverse amongst planes, which causes some confusion for people, and I've always thought that was amusing. But either way, landwalking is a fairly potent ability if you happen to be playing against an opponent that has the right kind of land. But if you don't, it's a dead ability. So instead, they've just replaced it with unblockable, and not every color gets access to unblockable, so it is a remnant of old time Magic. It is interesting to note that it just says creatures you control gain landwalk until end of turn, which makes me think, now I don't know this for sure, but it makes me think that all of your creatures gain the landwalk abilities of all 5 colors. But it's weird that this is a red land, right? Isn't it weird that this is a mountain that gives everybody landwalk of like all colors? Like, normally if you saw a land that tapped, like basically cared about you having all the colors and tapping it, it's going to be a colorless land. Although we did get that one recent one. Anyways, most of the time, if you have a land that's going to involve all 5 colors like this, it's going to be aligned to the colorless. It's going to be a colorless land. And that's not the case here, right? It's a mountain, but there's a reason that it's a mountain, and it's a cool little reason, because there's a number of neat little tie-ins to this card, a couple of references. So first of all, the name Fabled Path of 0 Point. 0 Point is actually them just rearranging the letters in the word operations, because this card was created for the operations group, right? So that's the first little thing to note. And to me, that's the least interesting tweak to this. So when you take a look, first of all, at the flavor text, it says, "Who built such a wonder? It took many hands." So that's a nod, obviously, to the work that the operations team does. But there's even more hidden flavor text associated with this card. There's a couple things hidden in. When you take a look at the art originally, you can see that this is a mountainous path just going up along the side of a mountain. In the background, you can see snow-covered mountains that are jutting up above above the clouds. And you can see that there are these birds that are flapping away as well. And you might notice the birds are flying off with the sword. So what's going on there? Well, first of all, when it comes to one of the tie-ins, we have the fact that it's actually a snow-covered mountain in the back of the card here. And notice the artist on this snow-covered mountain. That's Tom Wannerstrand. And he is actually a member of Wizards of the Coast operations. Now, why am I bringing this up? Why is this relevant? Is it just because there's snow-covered mountains in the back of this card? Nope. The reason is, take a look at the artist on Fabled Path of Zero Point. It's Tom Wannerstrand. So he's on operations. He did the original Ice Age artwork for the snow-covered mountains, and it shows snow-covered mountains in the background. That's a pretty neat little tie-in, but it doesn't end there. As I mentioned, you've got the little birds flying away there, and you can see one of them has a sword in his hands. What's going on? Well, that's because these birds are actually a reference to supply line cranes. There you go. You got the same birds flying along with swords. And supply line cranes are 2 white and 3 for a 2/4 flyer. This is from the original Theros block. And it says, when supply line cranes enter the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. But the reason that this is included is because of the flavor text. They're trained from hatching to deliver aid where it's needed most. And that's the idea behind like tying it into operations, which I thought was a really cool concept. And that makes Fabled Path of Zero Point interesting on multiple levels, because as a huge Magic goober, I love Magic very much. I love all these little details. It's really cool to me, and I feel lucky to get to talk with you guys about it. So, list of my top patrons scrolling on by. We're wrapping it up here. I'm going to leave links to videos on my other 2 channels. Whether you want to laugh or want Magic lore, I've got your back. Let's spend some more time together. Goodbye for now!